Lonely Monk Productions. I don't know if y'all have heard Yeehaw Stuff by Roberta Faceplant yet, but yo!
That's my joy!
Hey, yo, displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. You're tasting things that don't need to be measured. What's good, friends and family, neighbors near and far? Welcome to an all-new episode of the Yo, That's My John podcast. The podcast, website, brand, movement, way of life dedicated to the embrace and championing of your passions. I am your host, Nate Runkle, a.k.a. John Wayne Bobbitt, a.k.a. Nate 3.0, back at it again with yet another episode of the podcast. As always, I hope this podcast finds you all in good health and in good spirits. On today's episode, I am joined for a chat by writer, director, producer Julien Hayet-Kerknawi and actor James Downie. Julien's debut feature, The Last Front, features a brilliant performance by James, and it is out this Friday. So we talk about the film and their lives and so much more. And that is coming up in a minute here. But first, now for our regularly scheduled check-in. How goes it, gang? 2 weeks with back-to-back interviews with filmmakers has been absolutely fantastic to be able to scratch that film itch I have. You know, I mentioned it on here before, but one of my early creative focuses was film. And I don't really get a chance to flex that muscle much anymore. And, you know, I've felt for quite some time that it was due to what I talked about last episode with Nicole, that indie filmmakers have for some time been seemingly more reluctant to take risks. And there's less and less indie films that interest me. You know, everything feels like award fodder to me or a vanity project for a bigger actor to flex their acting chops. But I came up as a fan and follower of indie cinema in the 90s when guys like Kevin Smith and Robert Rodriguez would max out credit cards, sell comic collections, undergo medical experiments just to make their films because they had something to say. And it has felt like that's long gone. And, you know, maybe it is in the mainstream, but my talk with Nicole last week and Julien and James today, it's led me to realize that there are filmmakers out there who still have something to say, that have ideas in films that may not reach the multiplex, but that doesn't mean they're not being made. You know, maybe the industry is a little more hesitant to take risks on indie ideas, but maybe they're not the only ones. I very well may be to blame as well. You know, maybe as a viewer, I haven't been taking the same risks that I was willing to take when I was coming up. You know, time is valuable, and as I get older, I seemingly find myself with less and less of it. So when I have a chance to sit down and watch something, it's more of a challenge to dedicate 2 hours to something I know nothing about. So I fall back on what's in the zeitgeist, you know, a Marvel, a Star Wars, not just a Fast, but maybe also a Furiosa. You know, talking to Nicole and Julien and James, though, it reminds me of the thrill of trying something sight unseen, you know, of taking that risk. So I can complain about the industry all I want, and I'm going to. Don't worry about that. But I do also have to acknowledge my own complicity in it. If you're not following us on the socials, what the heck are you waiting for? We are at Yo That's My John on everything. And you can visit www.yothat'smyjohn.com for links to all kinds of stuff. You can sign up for the mailing list there. You can find links to the previous episodes of the podcast, links to me on other people's pods, or a little OPP, if you will. You can find merchandise like the new Kill All Algorithms t-shirt or the brand new Too Old Too New logo tee if you are into that sort of thing. You know, like, follow, rate, review, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's get to the interview. My guests today are the writer, director, producer, and the star of the new World War I film, The Last Front, out in theaters this Friday, August 9th. Folks, it is my honor to welcome to the show Julien Hayet-Kerknawi and James Downie. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined today by the great Julien Hayet-Kerknawi. Did I get that close? Am I close on this?
You got that close. Perfect. On the spot.
And the great James Downie. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for doing this today and joining me on Yo, That's My John.
Thanks for having us, Nick.
So the film is The Last Front, and I got a chance to check it out. It comes out, we're recording in the past, but this will come out on Monday. So it comes out, the film comes out on Friday. August 9th, and I implore everyone to go see it because it is absolutely beautiful, and congratulations on such an incredible film.
Thank you so much, Nate.
Thank you.
I always like to take these conversations. We'll obviously get to the film in a second, but I always like to start in what I like to call the Wayback Machine and kind of learn a little bit about everybody. Tell me a little bit about growing up and where you're from and your childhood. We'll start with you, Julien.
I'm Julien. I come from Belgium. I was raised as the youngest of a family of three, and we didn't have a lot of means to, take fancy holidays and that kind of stuff. But my sister, she is a movie buff, and she produced the last film also, and she had a lot of cassettes. And it was 2001 when I was 7 years old, and even before that, there were no limitations on what kind of movies I could watch. So I watched a lot of movies, especially all the great 90s. The 90s had the greatest movies. I saw The Matrix when I was 6. I saw Chucky when I was 5. I saw Titanic a billion times when I was 6. It was a great way to fill up my brains. And I had a calm, very peaceful youth. And then growing up at the age of 13, I started picking up the camera and shooting little action scenes with my friends. And from there on, the passion for cinema never left.
That's beautiful. Can you remember the first film that made you go, I want to make this, as opposed to I just want to watch this?
The moment that I always knew since the age of 10, I wanted to be like a filmmaker, but that was a virtual idea. The moment I walked out of theaters after having watched Inception in 2010, that was end of July 2010, I knew that same evening, now's the time, now I'm going to start making movies. And that same evening, I called my best friend and I said, you have a camera, we got to start making little action videos. Inception was like The Matrix was for Darren Aronofsky, my little moment where everything changed, everything fell into place. Inception.
That's beautiful. I'm like my that and The Prestige are my two favorite Nolan films. Like I feel like they're both kind of. I know people talk about Inception a lot, but I feel like they're both really underrated. In his catalog, because they're both just so brilliantly beautiful to look at.
You're incredible.
Hard to pick a favorite Nolan, isn't it? It's hard. Even the top three is hard to narrow it down to. But yeah, I don't know. Interstellar, maybe. Yeah, that's definitely up. Jesus
definitely.
Christ.
Definitely. James, how about yourself? Tell me a little bit about you growing up.
So I was brought up in the countryside in England, a place called Berkshire. And I was a very late bloomer to acting. I was raised by two parents who had sort of nothing to do with the arts. My mum worked in HR all her life. My dad was an accountant. None of my ancestors were really creative. So not sure exactly where it came from, but it probably had something to do with my dad being a big film buff. I mean, it was, we'd watch multiple movies every week. He introduced me to the classics, like, The Matrix, saw that when I was like 9. A lot of Tarantino, Christopher Nolan, Martin Scorsese, I remember watching the Departed for the first time, and that just absolutely blew me away. But I think, the moment when I realized, okay, like I don't have any experience being on stage or acting in any way, but seeing what Heath Ledger did as the Joker when I was 15 years old in a cinema, it was just breathtaking, and it just did something to me, and I thought maybe that's something I want to have a crack at one day. Let's see where it goes from here on out. But that was my sort of introduction to movies. It was my dad, growing up.
What was the first kind of acting that you tried your hand at?
So I kind of I wasn't a very academic student. I gave it my all, but I'm dyslexic and dyspraxic, so writing essays wasn't really my strong point. But I remember when I went to sixth form college, it's like between the ages of 17 and 18 over here in the UK. The principal said pick 4 subjects that you're good at, confident at, and then pick one wild card, right, for the 5th one. So I'll take a stab at drama, and initially it was the first term was all theory based. Still didn't really love it. And then as soon as we got to the practical side of drama and getting it up on its feet and doing plays, that's when I really found sort of my mojo, and it felt good, like and sort of exceeding in sort of the practical part of creating drama. And then yeah, the first play I did was Romeo and Juliet. I played Benvolio. It wasn't great. I was not great, but it kind of gave me the bug, and from there on out, I was like, okay, I got a lot of catching up to do with these kids who have been, doing the nativity since they were three and whatnot. So I was like, okay, I got to get myself into 3 years of drama school, and then off I popped to Lambda. Yeah.
That's incredible. I always find that people who kind of happen their way into things kind of always are the ones that surprise you. I was kind of the same way when I was in school. I went to school with an actress, Liza Weil. I don't know if you guys familiar with the Gilmore Girls?
Familiar with it, but I can't place her, I'm afraid. Is she like one of the main ones?
No.
She played like a kind of the antagonist of the main character named Paris Geller. But we went to school together, and I remember in middle school, her, when we first were given electives that we were allowed to take, her asking about the drama department, and I was like, "What's that?" And she was like, "Well, it's acting," and I was like, "That's a class? You take that?" Like, because like for me, it didn't make sense to me that it was something someone could do. I thought it was just something that, like, I don't know, a precious few did, but it was the thing that clicked. And I was like, well, let me try that. And then that was what kind of led me down the path of, I had a past in TV and film making before I kind of pivoted to music. And then before I pivoted to this, not successfully, but that was where acting kind of found me, was, by chance, just happening to hear about it and taking a chance on it. But like, it's amazing that was kind of the fourth pick of
yeah,
others.
I tried everything else really. I just didn't gel with me, and I wasn't that great at it. But when you finally find something you're pretty good at and you're also passionate about, then it's hard to pursue anything else really. But as all artists will say, we're gambling with our lives by picking something, a career, an industry that's so crazy. But yeah, if it's what you love, then go for it.
It's beautiful. Julien, you were talking about making films when after seeing Inception and knowing your friend had a camera. Do any of those films exist? Can I find them on Vimeo and stuff?
Yeah, you can find them all on YouTube. I actually put them on private. I want to remaster them, but I can certainly give you that. It's very simple little action videos where we're toting guns, like this 90s kind of Hong Kong kind of action stuff. Very cool. Yeah, you can find it on YouTube. Actually, if you go on if you type in my name on YouTube, you can find my travel videos I made during COVID, where I got really experimental. There's like from 2010 to 2018, when I was doing little short movies, I was very, my film language was very practical. It's like shot, reverse shot, action, trying to like create flow and rhythm. And, it was just like people shooting each other up in little action scenes and that kind of stuff. And you also have my short film, A Broken Man.
I watched it.
Which, thank you. Did you like it? Did you like it?
It was great. It was fantastic. It was very like it following the same theme, because of course, obviously, the last front kind of comes from A Broken Man. It was very meditative. Like, I really liked kind of the more kind of, especially in the beginning, the more kind of dreaminess to it. It was
yeah.
I dig it.
So yeah. So when you put so like on the week of the theatrical release of Last Front, there will be a video coming out where I'm comparing scenes of A Broken Man with The Last Front, and you can actually see the same scenes but shot in a totally different way. Like The Last Front is more bluish, steelish, while A Broken Man, it's more of a Flemish, like Flemish Anglo-Saxon film language, in my opinion, like more dreamy, like you say, calmer, more optimistic. And yeah, what I if you go on my YouTube channel and you really try to look at my old action stuff, I gotta have them upload. I gotta unrestrict them. Um, it's what's interesting then when you watch The Last Front is like it's a blend of the two. There's the hardcore, there's like the real thrilling action sequences. Like I hope my intention was to create in the middle of the movie like this 12-minute long action scene where we had this thrilling popcorn suspense, where everybody's running all around the village, shooting at each other, and then combine it with the more contemplative elements where you're more trying to find your balance with yourself and nature. It blends both of them, which was nice.
That's awesome. The film, like going into the Last Front, one of the things you said about suspense, your ability to kind of build tension in this film is masterful. Like, there's actually a lot of stuff. I'm coming with high praise, my friend. There's a lot of stuff in this film that feels very mature, as if it weren't your first feature. Kind of, what was the preparation going into it? Because first of all, I'm a believer that a cinematic eye is not something learned; it's something innate in a creative, and you have it in spades. Like, you definitely, I feel like, have a signature in there that captivated me throughout the entire film.
Well, I think that every human being, my basic philosophy is that every human being has the language in which he's able to express himself. Like for James, it's drama. For you, it's your voice. You can captivate me with your voice. For some, they love to dance. For others, they love to wear a beautiful shirt, and it says so much. When they smile, it says so much about them. With me, I found that film is the language in which I can express myself and express how I see the world and how I perceive the world. Going back into The Last Front, what I really tried to create is personal suspense, because it's World War One, and when you do World War One, when you do like a major political and conflict, it's easy to delve into, like the encyclopedic elements of the conflict. So you would then cut to a scene where like a lot of big generals are discussing, like something important. And then, oh yeah, we're seeing all the Germans arriving, but I wasn't interested in that. And not only in my other writing, because I'm writing some new stuff, and I'm always interested in how do you put the whole pressure of the world on one shoulder, which is why James and Ian's character, they're very interesting, because James and Ian's character, Leonard the farmer and Adrian, they're a father and son on their side. And at the other side of the Germans, you have the exact same situation, a father and a son, all in conflict with each other and with themselves and across each other. And because they're always arguing, the plot moves forward, and there's suspense because I slap you, now you want to slap me back. But you have this and I don't have that, and I have this at stake and you have that at stake. And I found that was very interesting. The amount of preparation for this was massive. Started writing in 2016. The Last Front came on a Sunday. It was a Sunday. The treatment was written in a day. It was a one-pager, and it ended in the same way it now ends on the screen, and it started on the same way from it. But the whole, everything in between, you always have to know the ending and the beginning of the movie. You know where you begin, you know where you end. I always knew that. 8 years, no, 5.5 years of rewriting while we were doing the movie in pre-production. COVID got postponed 4 times. There were even people saying it got canceled because, how can an independent movie survive 2 COVID hits, Um, and even during the filmmaking progress, we're very collaborative. First day I met with Ian when he arrived on for the shooting schedule. We had coffee, changed some lines. You know, he had some finesse, and there were character reactions. The reactions to characters that they went very loud in my script. And he said, no, just let them do nothing. Let them absorb. Postpone that emotion, postpone it into 6 scenes further, and then the gravity of everything. My executive producer taught me so much about suspense. He taught me about loading. His name is Brecht Arnaerts. He's a great guy. He taught me about loading an image. So, and that's actually the biggest lesson I had. And am I talking for too long?
No, dude, it's brilliant. I love it.
Okay. So an image by itself, and I love editing the most. Editing is my favorite part of it because editing, you reshape the whole movie itself. We re-edited The Last Friend 15 times, actually. He said when you reload, an image by itself is worthless, but an image in context is worth so much. And I can't come up with a damn example right now, but it's just when the audience projects in the succeeding passage of images a value and some kind of meaning to it, or meaning to character or character traits or little sounds. It's like, like little things a villain might do. And you see things coming up because you've seen a pattern and you've seen what's at stake and stuff. And that builds a lot of suspense. It's, I think, in the greatest example, the culmination of this entire thing, when Ian holds the torch and the camera goes into him. That's the money shot of the whole film, because that image is loaded. It's so loaded with emotion. The camera goes in, he's holding, and you've seen everything that has happened to him, all the setbacks he's done, and everything that's everybody done. And now when you see that rage in him and that fire, it's loaded. Well, if it just happened, it wasn't loaded. And that's suspense.
It's beautiful.
That's something I learned in India. Sorry.
No, you're great, man. But that image, like, and the metaphor of, like you said, the rage burning inside, plus, and just the way that it all plays out, like it's just beautiful, like text painting. Like it's incredible. James, how did you come on the project? How did the project come on your radar?
Oh man, this takes me way back now. So what year are we talking this? Is it like 2019, Julien? Maybe
summer 2019.
Summer, yeah. I think it might have been springtime when I first sort of got the audition. So yeah, it was one of those happy accidents, really. So I had a friend of mine from drama school. His name is Adam. He's a very dear friend of mine. He was making cups of tea for a casting director for his office, really. He wasn't a casting director himself, but his job was just to kind of assist him, and make cups of tea. And he saw this breakdown just come through, and he just instantly thought of me. He thought, okay, Jimmy would be great for this. So I kind of got the audition through him, and then I did a series of self-tapes. And then, yeah, it led to me getting the job, which I was so thrilled by. I remember when I first read the script, it was just a real page turner. And this character, the character of Adrian, it's such a gift of a role. The themes of family, courage, resilience, love, like really came through the pages. And yeah, I was just absolutely stoked to be a part of it.
It's awesome. And like you spend a considerable amount of time side by side with Ian Glenn, who's just absolutely stellar. Did you pick anything up from working with him? Because I feel like he's the kind of guy who would kind of bring the best out of you, and just not just in knowledge, but just giving in a scene.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He's a seasoned veteran, Ian Glenn, and I was already a massive fan of his work from obviously Game of Thrones, right? So Jorah, like what's not to love about his performance in that series?
Everybody loves Ian.
Everybody loves Ian,
Everybody just loves Ian.
but he also has a rich history in theatre. I think it's where he started out to begin with, and that really. I don't know, when you're a theater actor, I feel like you can potentially be a bit more open-minded, a bit more like generous on set, and that's not me taking a shit on people who just do film. But there is this, he was incredibly generous in his spirit, and he kind of acted like as a bit of a mentor for some of the more inexperienced actors on set. I mean, it was my first movie. It was my little sister Emma Dupont's first movie. And so yeah, when you're doing these big emotional scenes together, you feel supported by him. But I think I mean, yeah, the scene I had most fun acting opposite him was the scene where it's basically set in the dinner around the dinner table in this very small room, very intimate, claustrophobic. I think we could only get maybe four members of crew in there, and I knew like, oh, out of all the scenes, this is the one I really need to hit. And then yeah, I did the scene opposite Ian, and I feel like it went pretty well. But when he makes your job so easy when he's giving you that much in a scene. All you have to do really is you do your homework, you throw it away, and then just put all your attention on the other person. And when that other person is Ian Glenn, it just does everything for you, you know? You just have to take it in and respond. And yeah, I remember feeling quite good about my takes on that scene, and then we were about to flip to Ian's point of view, at which point I was like, okay, I can breathe a little bit now. I can relax, and I was, beforehand, I was really getting myself getting myself into the zone. I was like, I'm not going to talk to Ian all day until I get on set. And so when I look at him for the first time in this scene, it's like the first time I've seen him in a while, because there's this sort of distance between these two characters at the time. So once I'd finished, I was like, okay, cool, I'm done. It's Ian's turn now. And I thought, well, where's Ian? He's probably like getting himself into the zone as well, right? And I just like walk outside the room, and Ian's just got his guitar out and just playing Rocket Man by Elton John and singing in front of, and it's like pitch black and night shoot. He's like dimly lit by these fires, and he's like, Rocket Man. And I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And I was like, no, of course you don't need to prepare. You can just switch it on and off like that. Yeah, his talent is just effortless, it seems. Yeah, that's a memory I'll never forget.
That's awesome. That is so cool. Julien, what's it like directing someone like Ian Glenn who, just comes with such gravitas?
I directed this movie when I just turned 28, and I came prepared for the visuals, of course, and how I like to shoot my frames, but Ian's energy elevated the entire set every day he was on, and he brought this kind of calm and sereneness in everybody. And he was always keeping an eye on everything on set in a very subtle way. He even helped with some technical things. Like I remember on the first day of shooting that he was on set, I did a shot counter shot of a specific scene, and he said, "Hey, Julien," and we were like, we were just having a little break, and he said, "I learned something from Sam Mendes, which was amazing." And he said, "Put a piece of paper of your shot on your laptop and imagine all the little dots on your keyboard. That's where an audience is sitting. If you're shooting that close to the face explodes, on the screen." The bottom line was, on the first day of shooting, he actually warned me to because you're like me, hey, I'm 29 years old, I'm 28 years old, it's my first movie, I'm very impressed. But no, take the camera away from those actors. You enjoy, just take it away and show the world around them. And I did that for the whole during the whole shooting. And I think the example I'm the most proud of is, the whole sequence in the village where the Germans arrive and you have that massive action scene. And also the scene where all the characters finally come together on the farm, when the Germans arrive. That scene really tells everything about, putting the camera far away from the characters and letting the whole environment breathe. That's where you get really something cinematic.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned earlier that I think is really important to take note of is you were talking about the kind of grand scale of a World War II film and kind of the geopolitical nature. And I think one of the brilliant things, one of the smart things you did with this film, because it kind of gives you the POV of the villagers and like a small town in a conflict like this, is to not get into all of that kind of machination behind it, behind the actual war itself, and just the effect it has on a small village that, is somewhat remote. And, especially in a time, way before social media and way before we're all dialed in on kind of everything. It is kind of like its own world. And so,
Yes.
it's almost like an invasion film. Well, it is an invasion film, but like almost like an alien invasion film, because there's no rhyme or reason. James, your character at one point talks about having to go into the army or whatnot. But like other than that, it's kind of its own self-contained thing where it's like this
Yeah.
whole thing's going on in the world out there, but not really exactly right here. Like we're just trying to live our lives. I thought that was a really great choice.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very deliberate. So what I wanted to create a self-contained story that could be projected in any type of conflict, whether it's a modern conflict or another historical conflict. I mean, I always said the script of the last front to myself, script of the last front is a good script. The moment where you could extrapolate the whole movie and put it in the Japanese feudal system in the 18th century, or in the 19th century and put it with a little feudal village trying to escape. That would give out the same story structure. For a World War One movie, of course, that will be the most divisive element of the film because it might be, well, where's the context? Why is it, where are we? I mean, the village, but it's not what the movie is about. The movie is about a visual and an auditory experience through the subjective experience. The character is going through art and trying to understand a new world while it's completely happening in front of us, in front of them. And yeah.
It's great. It was a great choice.
Thank you.
We're talking a lot about the visuals and stuff like that, and like I said, you're an incredible visual director. But
Thank you.
the performances that you got out of your cast is absolutely phenomenal. So, James, let's pretend Julian's not here for a second. What's it like working with Julian? What kind of director is he?
You know what? He's for someone who's is a feature film debut. You think you'd be very precious and very sort of militant about how everything needs to be, right? Because you don't want your first film to fail in any way. But actually, it's quite the contrary. Julian was very, very open to suggestions. He knew he needed to get from A to Z, but he wasn't precious about how exactly we got there, and that just made it feel like it was a very collaborative environment on set. So he wasn't, some lines could change here and there. I feel like everyone had an equal input, and that's something you rarely find in filmmaking. I think it's more of the world of theater that you'd find something like that. But that was really wonderful. Also, I think, with my performance, it was a luxury to be able to. I mean, I guess this is the sort of like, the blessing in disguise, really. When you've had 4 years of postponements, it means you have 4 years to prepare with your director, right? And so me and Julian, we had countless hours over Zoom, talking about the character of Adrian, breaking him down into archetypes, talking about the scenes and breaking them down. And with many scenes, it was more about, what's going on underneath the lines. It's more, it's what you doing to the other person is more important than what you're saying. And that really gives the scenes life, and a bedrock. And then we just spent a lot of time on, I think also Ian and Sasha, we did this together as well. We had like a Zoom call about the family, the Lambert family, and how Louise gets involved with this family, and we kind of built a rich backstory, a very detailed timeline from like the first days of Adrian's life till his mother passes. And yeah, the story arrives at a very complicated moment, especially between Adrian and Leonard, the father and son. And so it was really important to flesh out all those memories, particularly about the mother. The mother has quite a big theme in the story. And a lot of it was about sort of nourishing the imagination. So thinking about, okay, it was under that tree in the farm where she taught Adrian how to read and write, which, influences his poetry. It was in the kitchen where she told Adrian that she was getting sick. And then it was on that bed where she told Adrian, she gave Adrian his final words, before she passed. And so we had, I had the luxury of really spending years building up these memories so that when you're in the moment, when you're on set and you've only got maybe one take to hit something, you just trust that the work is there and it's gonna bubble up to the surface. So I gave you a very long-winded answer there.
That's what I want. That's what I love. So one of the things, not just in the performances, but in the casting itself, Julien, found, I feel like, a lot of people who not just are very good performers, but are very expressive with their face, and give very good kind of non-dialogue performances, as well as delivering lines and whatnot. What went into the casting of this? Like, I feel like you nailed every single spot.
Thanks a lot, man. Well, I'm not going to take all the credit for the casting. Most of it, the casting was, I did this movie together with my sister, Virginia. So she's the producer of the project, and she's a very people's person. So I had a very specific vision on how I wanted to cast the film. I wanted to do it in English, and but Virginia was very good at nurturing the right types of briefing and getting the right types of profile in front of me. And what was actually very funny is that before I saw the casting tapes of nearly every actor, he knew Julien was going to pick that one because I know how he works, and we kind of have the same taste in that. And she nurtured them a lot on set so that they felt very safe and very confident, and having a very healthy work environment of working. I think that's the case. And James, I mean, Virginia was always there to like create this very nice little work environment for everybody.
Absolutely. I mean, she played. Yeah. I mean, I feel like you both led from the helm, and she had a critical role in getting everything made, getting the right team together. Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of like as a filmmaker, what I always look at, that's something I learned from The Revenant. One of my favorite scenes in The Revenant, there's a scene where Tom Hardy is chewing on a piece of bone, like a piece of chicken, at a fire, and he's there with Donald Gleason. And I learned the essence of great casting in that scene. It's opposites. You have to cut back. When you cut back and forth in a scene, whether it's a dialogue scene or a conflict, you got to make sure that both characters are the complete opposite of one another, whether it's in behavior, philosophies, roughness. One is soft, one is rough. And you see that in every relationship in the last row, whether it's Ian and his son, whether it's the German, Lawrence and Maximilian, or probably my favorite scene of the movie where Father Michael, the priest, comes out of the church and try to ask people to stop this. You cut back and forth from German to the priest, and they're coming together. And that suspense is just unbearable because they're opposites. You cannot be more opposite of one another. And that's something, damn, I'm so lucky to have found this piece of knowledge. And it works really well, really the opposites. And whether it's costuming, acting, facial expression, even the editing techniques, opposites.
Yeah, it's I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to talk about Joe Anderson for a second here, but the opposite nature even between that father and son dynamic, a clean kind of a clean cut soldier of, almost of a different time, more regal, more honorable in that position, and then kind of the 5 o'clock shadow under the mustache of Lawrence and stuff like that. It is a beautiful contradiction. But here's my question for you. Is I know Joe Anderson from his performance of Mason Verger in Hannibal. Okay. And now this role, is he just a psychopath in real life, or are we is this just typecasting at this point?
He's an incredibly gifted person, and also a person I keep very close to the heart. Joe Anderson is basically what attracted him on this role is that he could personify somebody who is twisted by the moral of duty, but also the perversion of the spirit of unchecked power. And when you combine that with unwanted, unfulfilled needs and a misunderstanding, it leads to very violent results. Joe and I, we used to discuss on set. We had these conversations where we found it was so shocking. It's recalling me back suddenly. I remember there was a story in Ukraine at a bakery. There were 8 people waiting. They just wanted to buy a bread. Some soldiers come up, just start shooting everybody. Just start shooting. Who cares? And I just, how can the human brain, how can somebody get into that place? I don't know why that suddenly comes up, but yeah, that was the essence of basically the creation. It's just how can this random violentness exist? And I thought it was even more interesting if I can cross-cut the uselessness of all these conflicts with the eternal beauty of nature, which is something we're all doomed to live within it. Yeah,
that's great.
It's great. One movie I want to.
Gentlemen, the film is absolutely beautiful, and like I said, I implore everyone to go see it. It's a stellar. It's an incredible first film, first of all, and then beyond that, it does not feel like a first film whatsoever. Like it feels like you've been at this for a while, because it just, like I said, not just visually, but story, like the pacing, the beats, like it fires on all cylinders, and you should be insanely proud of this film.
Thank you.
At this time, you want to go through the gauntlet? These are my questions that I end every conversation with. It starts with the one-hit wonders, and this is just in preference only, just to kind of get a tenor of how people feel. First one, Billy Joel or Elton John? Who do you prefer? We'll start with Julien.
Elton.
Yeah. James?
Elton. Sorry, it's an easy one for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Ian Glenn sings to you Rocket Man, you got to pick that.
Yeah, exactly.
The second one, Debbie Harry or Joan Jett?
Joan.
And James?
Joan Jett. Bad Reputation.
I love it.
Classic.
I love it. She's actually from around my hometown. So.
Oh, wow.
Next one, Aretha Franklin or Tina Turner? Julien.
Tina, GoldenEye soundtrack.
Yes. James.
Tina Turner.
I love it. I love it. You guys are like on the same wavelength here. Next one, Nirvana or Pearl Jam? Julian.
Nirvana and the man who sold the world.
Nirvana.
Look at this.
Something in the way.
Oh, come on, James.
Hey, we're
sure
gonna
you're not my twin?
That's awesome. Now I understand why you work so well together. Janis Joplin or Stevie Nicks? Julian.
Nicks.
Janice.
Ah, there it is. The big division. We finally found one. The big cliche, the Beatles or the Stones? Julian.
Hands down on the Beatles.
James.
So is this for a one-hit wonder or like the whole collection?
It's just the whole collection. I only use one hit wonder in name kind of naming structure.
Like for the whole collection, then the Beatles. But I don't think there's a cooler song than "Give Me Shelter." Yeah, but as a whole, the Beatles, sure.
Hell yeah, I like it. I like it. Good answer. The last one of these, Bohemian Rhapsody or Stairway to Heaven?
Oh, Bohemian.
And James.
However, Stairway, when you're sad. Not Bohemian. Bohemian.
Okay, James.
Yeah, Bohemian.
Brilliant. I love it. I'm going to throw one in here, actually two in here as an addition, just because these are all music based because I talk to a lot of musicians, but I do have some film ones specifically that I would love to call up. Scorsese or Spielberg? Julian.
Scorsese.
And James.
It'll have to be Scorsese as well. Yeah.
Okay. And then one more. Tarantino or Paul Thomas Anderson?
Oh, PTA.
Shit.
PTA all the way.
There's not much in it. I'm gonna have to go PTA as well. I have to go PTA. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know that there's a wrong answer to that one, to be honest. Like that's an any given Sunday for me.
Yeah.
They're all incredible.
The next one is the top 10 countdown. As we spoke about this before, John can be whatever you want it to be. Number one, what was your first John? What was the first thing you were obsessed with when you were a kid? Julian.
Nintendo 64, GoldenEye 64.
Who was the character you liked to play as?
I always played as Bond. Always
okay.
Bond.
I was an odd job. James.
Nintendo 64 Star Wars Pod Racing.
Very
no way. I had that one too. That's so cool.
Bulba.
I love it. I remember when that game came out because I was I'm going to date myself here. I was in college and we couldn't afford to buy it, so we just went to the game store and just played the in-store version all afternoon.
Yeah.
Awesome.
About the game store. Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Number two, what's your current John? What are you into right now, Julian?
Film distribution. I'm trying to create culture.
That's actually, I wanted to ask, are you behind Enigma? Is Enigma releasing you?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's basically my company. It's, Enigma Releasing is the company that I've created to release The Last Front. And moreover, I have a website where, I have a website, enigmareleasing.com. There's also some really cool merch. I got the Madman Director cap, if you're not into that kind of stuff. But besides that, I'm mostly interested in bringing 2020's culture and trying to find what that means. And I wanted to start with the release of my own picture and see from where we go from there on. But I want to go away from the nostalgia and trying to find where culture is going. And Enigma should be a company that sells the most precious asset in our human conscious, which is culture. Something that I think since the smartphone revolution started and the financial crisis has come grinded to a halt, and we have to bring it back.
That's beautiful. And I 1000% agree. It is something that actually scares me because I feel like we're on a cultural pause. And I feel like somewhere around like 2015, like things just kind of, and the listeners are rolling their eyes because like I go off on tangents about this all the time, but streaming to me is the devil. As a matter of fact, I just recently created a T-shirt that says "Destroy all algorithms" because that's kind of where I'm at. Like I just it's not great. Oh,
Yeah.
great.
It's yeah, culture. It goes, I don't want to make enemies, of course. I think there's like a place for everything. And there's like great people in everything, but I think it's just about like a cultural movement, um, something like that. And I think you have to dare to find you have to dare to like let go of nostalgia, for that. And you got to be able to make, we got to be able to make risks again, Nate. That's basically what it's all about. Um, but yeah,
10,000%.
that's another podcast. That's another long podcast.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'll gladly have that conversation whenever you want to have it. James, what's your current John? What are you into right now?
That's a very serious answer, a very serious John from Julien. My current one is equally serious. It's called Spikeball. And Nate, I'll be disappointed if you've never heard or seen Spikeball before.
I do know spike ball. I am a huge like kind of beach outdoor game kind of guy. Like any kind of
Yes.
I'm a disc golfer. So like any of that kind of stuff, I'm 1000%. And I am very familiar with spike ball.
You're a bit of a spiker, Nate, yeah?
Yes, yes. If
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
ever Oh, go
we
ahead.
get from America. I mean, it's really it's really getting quite big over here now. But you guys, you got like pickleball, you got all different kinds of ball. But spike ball's made its way to London, and it is the season of spike. I got obsessed with that game over COVID, where you could only meet up with like a group of four people. Spike ball's 2v2. I adore it. I even got to the point where I competed in tournaments and got my ass kicked hard. But now I just play it for fun. And so yeah, we've got some sessions coming up this summer, and I can't wait to get back into it.
Dude, that's killer. I love that 1000%. Number three, what was your first concert? What was the first live show you ever saw, Julian?
Beyonce Formation Tour.
Wow.
Yeah. And that wasn't so late, right? That's like just a couple of years ago.
But still, what a brilliant first concert. How can you
Yeah,
ever follow that
that
up?
was really, really good concert. That was really very, yeah, that was good.
That's great. James, how about yourself?
Yeah, I didn't really go to see much live music growing up, but it would have to be Grizzly Bear when they came to London. Amazing band. I think I first discovered them from the Blue Valentine soundtrack, one with Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams. Yeah, incredible band. Yeah, very special moment seeing them
That's
live.
killer. Number four, what was your last concert? What was the last show you saw, Julian?
Uh, Beyonce Formation Tour. I actually don't like going to
Oh,
concerts.
wow.
So
That's
it's the same one. I don't like concerts actually. It's only
no.
when I never done a festival.
Festivals are fun, but they're definitely a challenge especially if you don't like live shows.
One day
Uh,
festival, one day festival. That's where it's at.
yes, yeah, for sure. James, how about yourself? Last show you saw?
It would have been very recently. Went to see Unknown Mortal Orchestra in Crystal Palace Park Festival in London. Incredible psychedelic rock band from New Zealand, I believe. Yeah, incredible stuff.
That's great. Number five, Julian, if Beyonce was the last and the first, I know the answer to favorite concert would be Beyonce. James, how
Yeah.
about yourself? What was your favorite concert?
It has to be Tame Impala at the O2. This is my first time I saw Kevin Parker live, and I'm just obsessed with that man. He's an absolute god. So yeah, I might even call my first if I get a son, I'm gonna call him Kevin probably. So yeah, it would have been Tame Impala at the O2 for sure.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. The next one, who have you, number six, who have you never seen live that you wish you would have? They can be living or dead. Julian.
Paul McCartney, that's for sure. I really want to see that one live.
Yeah, for sure. James?
Um, okay, there's a band called Black Country New Road. I don't know if you've heard of them. Uh,
No.
well, do yourself a favor and give them a listen after this. But they're this sort of like post-punk, alt rock sprinkled with quite a bit of jazz. But what happened was was crazy really. They've got three albums out now. But the second album called Ants from Up There. the main singer, Isaac, who also wrote most of the songs, he basically put out one of the greatest albums of all time into the universe, and then just dipped. He just left the band due to prioritizing his mental health. Fair play to him. But it just means that this is probably my favorite album of all time, and I think it was an album that people will be talking about for generations. No one has seen it live with Isaac playing it and singing it, and they haven't replaced him with another singer. The band still continues, but they've always left that spot open for him if he wants to come back. So yeah, getting to see Black Country New Road with Isaac, I wish I'd seen them live. Yeah.
That's incredible. I definitely got to check that out as soon as we finish this up. Number 7, name an unappreciated, John. Something you wish more people paid attention to, Julien.
Man, damn, you caught me off guard here. Unappreciated. Film essays.
I miss them.
People who analyze, people who critic movies on YouTube. They go really deep, usually much deeper into scene analysis than in classic college style film criticism.
Yeah, I was a big fan of my whole track when I was into film and whatnot was I was a big French New Wave guy. So like
nice.
all of the Cahiers de Cinema like writers and then filmmakers, like it's something I miss. And it was one of the things that I was really excited about when Tarantino did Cinema Speculation, the book that he put out. But yes,
nice.
I 1000% miss kind of scholarly writing about cinema. James, how about yourself?
Well, as we're still on the topic of music, I'm going to give a shout out to my sister's band. All right, Drugstore Romeos. They're like dream pop, trip hop, bit hazy, like hazy, shoegazy, euphoric. They're sort of up and coming band. Their second album's due to release at the end of this year. You should all check them out. They're great.
That was awesome. Drugstore. What was the second one?
Drugstore Romeos.
Romeos. Oh, awesome. I will definitely check it out. Number 8 is regularly what's your favorite album, but I'm going to pivot here with two special ones, guest appropriate. Julien, what's your favorite film?
The favorite movie I always love to revisit is the film Red Wine, which changes over time. To me. So, yeah. And if you would ask if this year, that's definitely Dune 2. I think it's probably like the first perfect movie. Like a perfect movie, like, where everything is like absolutely perfect. I think it's the first perfect movie and in cinema history.
I'm not exaggerating. I'm not lying just because you're here, but The Last Front is the first perfect movie I saw this year. So
no fucking way.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah,
sorry,
but no, for sure. It just like I said, it hits on all cylinders. James, I'm gonna pivot a different one for you. Who's your favorite actor?
Philip Seymour Hoffman. I think he might have been the greatest to have ever done it. It's Jesus Christ. I mean, there's no other actor I think that elevates the project he's in more than Philip Seymour Hoffman. He could have the smallest role in something and still stand out. Like his character in Boogie Nights, The Master. I mean, he got even in Mission Impossible, when he's got that scene with Tom Cruise and he's like, "Where is the rabbit's foot?" He can just do everything and anything. And man. Rest in peace. I think he was the greatest of all time, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like even that dumb role he had in Along Came Polly, like he is doing work.
Oh no. Yeah. Punch Drunk Love. Yeah. The most underrated rom-com, I think. But yeah, his relationship with Paul Thomas Anderson. God, they must have done like 8 movies together or something.
For sure. For sure. Number 9, name an artist whose output you'll consume anything they release. Julien.
Nolan. Yeah. And Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
I
actually, I'll be honest. I know Zack Snyder is very polarizing, but I think that people do not give him the credit for the visual storytelling that he is capable of. It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's just Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
You can do everything.
James, how about yourself?
It's kind of cliche, but Christopher Nolan, man. I rewatched Interstellar the other day actually, and it just blows me away every single time. Even this, and I don't know. I had like a 4 year break from watching Christopher Nolan films, not like intentionally. But yeah, I revisited Inception, Interstellar, and just no one does it like him. And yeah, that scene at the end of Interstellar where Matthew McConaughey comes back and he that scene between him and Ellen Burstyn when they've had like, yeah, what, 90 years apart or something, and then the parent and child role is reversed, and oh my God, yeah, and he's like, I knew you'd come back. Yeah, it just absolutely breaks me every time. So beautiful. Yeah.
It's an incredible film, and I feel like one that we really don't talk about enough. Like it's a masterpiece. It's absolutely beautiful
On all levels, yeah. Like, and everyone, adores the film, but I agree. I don't think it gets enough credit as it should. Yeah, absolute flawless on all levels.
For sure. The 10th and final of this. What is your favorite John of all time? Can be anything you want it to be. Julien.
My favorite yawn of all time is just sitting on a beach and knowing everybody I love is still alive now.
God, that's beautiful. James, how about yourself?
I'd say my late grandma's spare ribs. That was my biggest obsession. Growing up, it's as long as I got a plate of ribs in front of me, I'm a happy man. Yeah.
That's two very beautiful answers. Guys, thank you so much for doing this. The Last Front is out in theaters August 9th, this Friday. And listeners, I can't tell you enough. This film is absolutely beautiful. And I am so incredibly happy, not only that I got to talk to you guys, but that you are continuing to kind of create, like you said, a culture that I feel like is lacking in society. So thank you so much for doing this, not just doing this, but also for continuing to create beautiful stuff.
Thank you for your time and supporting the film, Nate. Love you.
Thank you so much, Nate. Pleasure talking with you today, and thanks for watching the film and supporting it.
My thanks again to Julien and James for joining me on the show today. The Last Front is out in theaters this Friday, August 9th, which also happens to be my sister and my sister-in-law's birthdays. So happy birthday, Nat and Alyssa. You can find theater listings and merch for The Last Front by visiting enigmareleasing.com. And you can follow Julien at official Hayet-Kerknawi and James at Jimmy Downie on Instagram. Links to all of those are, of course, as always, in the show notes. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to the Yo, That's My John podcast wherever you get your podcast from. And gang, it is never too late to get yourself a super awesome John Scout Merit Badge for Citizenship of the World just by rating and reviewing us. Don't forget to visit www.yothat'smyjohn.com for the link tree with links to articles, merchandise, all of the previous episodes of this podcast, guest appearance on other podcasts, and more. And while you're there, please be sure to sign up for our mailing list to get all of the updates delivered straight into your inbox. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/YoThat'sMyJohn for updates and live streams. Follow us on Instagram, Threads, and Twitter X at Yo That's My John, and search Yo That's My John on YouTube to find the Yo That's My John YouTube channel. Like and subscribe the heck out of that ish. We want to hear from you. Reach out, and touch some John. Back to back. Join me next week for my chat with Gabby Rose. It is yet another fun one that I cannot wait to share with you. Blue skies. Until next time, everybody. That's my John. Embrace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. You taste it, things that don't need to be measured. Yo, That's My John is a Lonely Monk production. Written and produced by yours truly, Nate Runkle. Theme song by me, under the moniker Nate 3.0. Special thanks to Fox Run Brands, DX Ferris, Andrew Scott, Maggie Poulos, Dan Drago, Natalie Runkle, and the beautifully vibrant and wickedly stunning Katie Downie. If you or anyone you know has any ideas they would like to share or any guests they would like to hear on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at yothat'smyjohn@gmail.com or hit us up on the socials at yothat'smyjohn. Until next time, be sure to displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Tilt your head back and shout to the world, yo, that's my John.